Hi, I'm Sabrina. This year, my parents struck me with a champagne bottle at my younger sister's wedding because I refused to sign over the deed to my $450,000 condo as a gift for the newlyweds. But that wasn't even the worst part. They had already systematically erased me from every family photo, birthdays, holidays, even Mom's 60th. I was a ghost in my own lineage. They secretly tried to sell my home behind my back. And when I pushed back, they made a video, circulated in the family group chat, labeling me a traitor who forgot where she came from. I never imagined justice would look like an empty driveway, or a crumpled wedding napkin no one noticed I took. But maybe that's what happens when silence becomes louder and more truthful than blood-soaked loyalty. Before we dive in, tell me, what time is it where you are? And have you ever chosen your peace over people who share your DNA? Share it below, because this story doesn't end how you expect. It was a warm Sunday evening in San Antonio, the kind where the air turns golden, and even the sidewalks seem dipped in honey. I pulled into my parents' driveway just as the valet opened my door. My spotless Toyota looked like a budget rental parked between two white Teslas and a blacked-out BMW. I stepped out of the car, smoothing invisible creases from my deep green wrap dress. No designer tag, no bold accessories, just a clean silhouette and the same silver earrings I'd worn to my college internship interviews. In my hands, a carefully wrapped jewelry case, engraved bangles for my sister, Elise. I walked toward the front porch where laughter spilled out like a champagne fountain on autopilot. The house was unrecognizable. Twinkling lights stretched overhead like a net. Jazz fluttered from hidden speakers, and something buttery and expensive lingered in the air. Probably truffle oil. My sister Elise, the golden girl of the Sullivan family, was finally getting married, and they'd planned the wedding like it was the royal coronation. Bigger than any wedding I'd ever attended, and somehow colder. Just inside, a young man in suspenders stood at a podium holding a clipboard like a bouncer at a nightclub. "Name?" he asked. "Sabrina Sullivan," I said, adjusting my grip on the gift box. He scanned the guest list, then hesitated. Looks like you're listed as a +1. Under the Sullivan block, I blinked. "Excuse me?" He flipped the sheet to show me. There it was, neatly printed. Elise, Mom, Dad, Aunt Raquel, and even Cousin Brielle's twins. At the bottom, in smaller font, +1 guest, unspecified. I forced a smile like I hadn't just been slapped with a paper cut. "Guess that's me, the anonymous extra." He hesitated. "Want me to write your name in?" "No need," I said, grabbing the blank badge. I pinned the generic guest tag to my dress, right over my chest where it tugged awkwardly, like it didn't belong there. Fitting. I floated through the crowd like static in a polished room. Nods exchanged. No real recognition. I was an afterthought, a placeholder. The ballroom doors yawned open like some glowing promise. Chandeliers sparkled overhead like frosted stars, and the silk tablecloths shimmered with practiced wealth. I scanned for my name. Table 19, back near the restroom corridor. My heels tapped a lonely rhythm across the marble as I made my way there. Table 19 was shoved behind a floral column, right by the swinging kitchen doors, where servers muttered orders and trays clattered. My place setting looked forgotten. Forks skewed, the wine glass smudged, and the napkin, folded into a half-swan, drooped as if it had surrendered mid-performance. I reached to fix it, but the air from a server brushing past sent one limp wing fluttering like a white flag. I sat down and exhaled slowly. From where I was tucked away, I couldn't see the head table, but I could hear every cheer, every clink of a glass raised in celebration. Laughter, applause, champagne corks. Elise was being toasted like she cured cancer. "To the bride of the decade," someone crowed. A woman in diamonds kissed Elise on the cheek like she'd just been elected. My mother, Delora, floated from group to group, her voice syrupy and controlled. "This is our girl," she purred proudly. She's everything we dreamed of. And can you believe it? She's already opening her own design firm. Such a prodigy. No one noticed I was there. My dad, Orville, looked my way once, gave me a single slow nod, not of welcome, just acknowledgement, and then turned back to laugh at something the best man said. I picked up my water glass and drank slowly. The cold grounded me. My hand brushed the sad napkin swan again, crumpled, off kilter, utterly alone on porcelain it was never meant to touch. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe someone forgot. Or maybe, deep down, this was exactly how they wanted me seated. Out of sight, out of story. Or maybe, just maybe, I was never meant to be visible in this family at all. A server leaned over to clear the chair beside me, the one no one had claimed the entire evening. "Anyone sitting here?" she asked. I smiled thinly. "Number." Looks like it was just for show. Then came the clinking of forks against glass, forced joy, and the lights dimmed, giving way to a single spotlight on stage. The mic crackled to life, and then came a voice. Familiar, rehearsed. "And now, a few words from someone very dear to us. Please welcome, Sabrina Sullivan." I froze. My name bounced through the speakers, but not with warmth, more like a setup. Applause sputtered out like an afterthought as I stood, hesitant and confused. I hadn't been asked to prepare a speech. I hadn't even been told I'd speak. I made my way to the stage, my heels tapping like a countdown to something I didn't yet understand. My mother flashed a smile as I passed. Too perfect, too poised. A smile with teeth, not warmth. The spotlight was blinding. I shielded my eyes, scanning the sea of faces, some curious, some amused, none comforting. Elise sat center stage, glowing. My dad leaned back, smug, like he was enjoying a finale he'd personally written. Mom nodded slightly like she'd already counted on my compliance. I reached the mic, half expecting someone to hand me cue cards. Nothing, just silence. Then it began. The giant screen behind me flickered to life. First, Elise in a flower crown, age 6. Then her winning the science fair. Prom queen, dean's list, engagement photos, a sanitized highlight reel, graduation, fashion internship, Elise shaking hands with a city councilwoman, a picture of her new design studio. Then narration. My mother's voice, smooth and syrupy. Elise has always been destined for brilliance. She was the joy in every room, the one we built our hopes on. Then my dad's voice. We always knew she was exceptional, the kind of girl who just shines. It's not taught, it's in her blood. I stood still, jaw clenched, hands folded, smiling, because if I didn't, someone would whisper I was jealous, or worse, unstable. They didn't mention the loan I gave Elise last year when her design firm nearly folded. Not the weekends I worked double shifts to help her redo her branding. Not the night I slept in her half-furnished studio just so the building inspector wouldn't walk out. Not a trace of me in the fairy tale they edited and curated for this crowd. The video faded out in gold script. A love story. A legacy. Polite applause. Enthusiastic. From those too far to know better. I nodded vaguely, turned back toward the mic. My mother rose, clapping as she walked forward. "And now," she said with a bright, saccharine voice, a few heartfelt words from the ever-thoughtful big sister. I blinked. So that's what this was. An ambush in satin? A speech I hadn't been invited to write, but was expected to perform. I glanced at my dress. Suddenly it felt too plain, too wrong. My palms damp. I leaned forward. "It's a beautiful night," I began. "And Elise, you've always had a way of making people feel seen, even when the spotlight was all yours." That's when she cut me off. My mother, laughing like this was a comedy sketch. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, voice high and bright. "Tell them, wouldn't it be the perfect gift to give your sister that lovely condo as a wedding present?" The room went still, not peacefully, but like air being sucked out, controlled, calculated. The silence slammed down like a trapdoor. Somewhere in the back, someone cleared their throat. A phone shutter clicked. My throat tightened. I looked at my mother, trying to figure out if she'd snapped, or if this whole moment was scripted. "What?" I whispered, not into the mic, just to her. Her smile didn't budge. "You know, the condo in East Austin," she said sweetly. "It's so nice, and you're always out of town for work. Elise and Jonah could really use a starter home. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it?" Dad's voice boomed from across the room. "Come on, Sabrina. It's symbolic. You don't even live there full time. No kids, no partner. That place is wasted on you." It wasn't a request, it was a trap. One engineered to make no sound selfish. Eyes shifted, chairs creaked. Guests glanced around, unsure whether to clap or cringe. Jonah stared into his drink. Elise smiled tightly. Neither of them looked surprised. "This was never discussed," I said into the mic. My voice cut through the silence like glass. A few gasps, some empathetic, others sharp with secondhand shame. Mom waved it off, all pearls and poise. "Don't be dramatic, sweetheart. It's just a gesture, a loving one." My ribs felt like they were shrinking inward. My whole body screamed, "Say something. List every time you saved them, bailed them out, paid their bills." But I didn't. I looked at my mother. That face, so polished, so performative, nothing loving in her eyes, just calculation. This had been planned, every second of it. Down to the mic, the video, the fake applause. Guests fidgeted. Someone whispered, "That's low." Another voice, "She's not going to humiliate them here, right?" I set the mic down with care, quiet but final. My hand shook as I smoothed my skirt. Then I smiled, not warm, not angry, just a quiet, knowing smile that said, "I see you, and I will not forget." I stepped off the stage, unaware that the real blow was waiting beside a tiered cake and a silver ice bucket. Just 3 steps off the stage, I saw my father standing by the dessert table. His arms were locked at his sides, jaw clenched so hard it pulsed. He wasn't watching the party. His eyes were locked on me. And that never meant anything good. My mother stood behind him, clutching a champagne flute, whispering something like venom. Her face wasn't worried, it was twisted with disgust. "She humiliated us," she hissed. Maybe she didn't know I could hear, or maybe she wanted me to. I slowed down, not from fear, but from instinct, the kind that knows when you're about to be ambushed. I scanned for someone, anyone. Elise looked down. Jonah lifted his glass. Nobody moved. The marble beneath my feet gleamed. Too perfect, too clean. I could see my own reflection in it, and I barely recognized her. Dad stepped forward. He grabbed the neck of a champagne bottle. I thought he was just refilling, until he turned, fast, silent, and swung it. The base hit me squarely at my temple. A crack. Then everything went white. Not darkness, just permanent flashbulb blindness. I stumbled, vision swimming. Something warm and thick crawled down my face. Then, gasps. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "Did he just—" Phones lifted, screens glowed. No hands reached for me. Blood splashed the marble, bright and jarring like ink spilled on ice. "You ungrateful thing," my mother snapped, loud enough for the room to hear. "We gave you a life, and this is how you repay us?" My mind stalled. My body moved before I understood what just happened. I bent down, palm pressed against my temple. The pain burned, yes, but the shame scorched deeper. A few people stepped back like I was contagious. Not a single person came forward. My cousin John, the one who always reeked of engine grease, yelled, "Call 911." But even he didn't take a step in my direction. I straightened slowly, knees trembling under a willpower forged in silence. My dress, seafoam green, was now streaked in red. The marble shimmered under my feet. I couldn't tell if it was polished or if I was dizzy. "Is she okay?" a woman whispered near the chocolate fountain. "She's not faking that, is she?" "No," another voice cut in, steady. "He hit her. I got the whole thing." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch loud enough to matter. I walked through the stunned crowd, past Jonah, who stared into his untouched slice of cake like it held all the answers. Elise reached out and touched his arm, barely, but she didn't stand, didn't speak, just let me walk by. Outside it was dead quiet, like the world itself was pretending nothing had just happened. No one followed. My fingers shook as I called an Uber. It rang twice before I realized I was holding the phone upside down. By the time the driver pulled up, blood had dried like a brittle mask along my cheek. He glanced at me, clearly debating whether to cancel. "You okay, ma'am?" "Hospital," I whispered. That's all I could get out. The ER smelled like antiseptic and defeat. The fluorescent lights made everything, and everyone, look hollow. I filled out the check-in sheet myself, dragging the pen through the form with a bandaged hand that wouldn't stop shaking. The nurse's voice was soft, like she'd patched up women like me before. Women who walked in alone. Who left alone. "Anyone to take you home?" she asked. I shook my head. "Just me." She nodded like she'd seen this movie before. "You're not the first," her tone said, even if her lips didn't. I leaned back on the paper-lined cot as she pressed gauze to my head with practiced calm. The ceiling tiles looked like mint toothpaste, scrubbed, sterile, and indifferent. That's when it hit me. Not the pain, not the shame. The clarity. I would never, ever show up for any of them again. Not for birthdays, not for holidays, not for grief. By the time I made it back to my friend Danny's place, everything ached. My scalp pulsed like a second heartbeat. She'd left the guest room light on. There was a mug of chamomile on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. I just collapsed. Shoes still on. I shut my eyes. Not to sleep, but to escape the sound of glass clinking, and faces pretending not to see. Morning crept in too soon, through pale curtains and the sputter of someone's lawn sprinklers outside. I blinked up at the unfamiliar ceiling, disoriented. Then my head throbbed, and it all came flooding back. I reached for my phone. It lit up like a confession booth, dozens of messages, none from family, not from Elise, not from Jonah, not even a "hope you're okay" from the parents who raised me like a side note. Instead, messages from former colleagues. "Saw the video. Are you safe? Was that real?" Yes. Someone had uploaded the moment, a shaky clip, a gasp, my body stumbling sideways, blood blooming at my temple like red ink on satin. I tried deleting the texts, the video, the shame, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tried to stitch myself back into a routine, brushed my teeth, flinched when I rinsed. I reached into my purse, just to check. The spare condo key was always in the side pocket. I needed to feel in control again. But the key was gone. Everything else was there. Wallet, receipts, lip balm, but the key wasn't. I dumped the entire bag out, one item at a time. Nothing. My heart dropped. Then it clicked. A week ago, after dinner in Westlake, Dad had accidentally taken my bag. Said he thought it was Mom's. I hadn't thought much of it. Until now. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Hi, Ms. Sullivan. This is Jeanette from HomeQuest Realty. Just confirming our 2 p.m. walkthrough today at your condo. We'll meet at the front door unless you want us to access the lockbox." My stomach twisted. "I didn't schedule anything," I said, heart thudding. Jeanette flipped through her notes. "It's under your name. A Mr. Orville Sullivan is listed as co-signer, but the listing account is tied to your title." I couldn't breathe. I never listed my condo, never gave anyone permission. "Would you like me to cancel the showing?" I didn't answer. I just hung up. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in one hand, white-knuckling the bedsheet with the other. This wasn't just humiliation. It was erasure, meticulous and premeditated. I opened my laptop. The blinking cursor dared me. Now what? Then I opened a new email. To marlo.steinberg@lawfirmco.com. Subject, urgent, Elise's wedding fallout. "Hi Marlo, we met last fall at the She Leads brunch. I hope you remember me." I think my parents are trying to steal my condo. I can't prove it yet. But a realtor just called about a walkthrough I never scheduled. And they're using a key I never gave them. Can we talk? Sabrina Sullivan. I hit send and threw on a coat. By noon, I was at my East Austin condo with a locksmith, the sun beating hot judgment into the back of my neck. The locksmith ran his fingers along the lock. Somebody's been here. Scratches are fresh, like they had a key but didn't know how to angle it quite right. Can you change it? I asked. Of course, he said. Want me to throw in a deadbolt while I'm at it? I nodded, hard. While he worked, I leaned back against the hallway wall, staring at those tiny scratches like they were betrayal etched in metal. It wasn't a break-in. It was worse. Familiar access. The kind that said, "We think it's still ours." I didn't sleep. The locksmith left around 8. I sat in silence, the smell of oil and metal still thick in the air like a warning. I microwaved some soup, didn't finish it, then lay awake, counting ceiling cracks and racing thoughts. Morning came. My phone buzzed gently on the counter, an email from my mother, subject line like a performance. Let's talk, Sabrina. We love you. This has gone far enough. Come by today, just us, no guests. Let's fix this. Love, Mom. I stared at it too long. It wasn't anger that surfaced. It was hope. Pathetic, persistent hope that maybe they wanted peace, not property. By 2:15, I was parked in their pristine driveway. Same perfect flower beds, same silent porch swing. Everything looked the same, too much the same. But something felt wrong. Scripted. Mom opened the door before I knocked, arms wide like she'd read my hesitation from inside. Sabrina, baby, she said, hugging me gently, but her body felt stiff, like she was trying to pass for human. I stepped in. The living room had been staged. That's the only word that fit. Orchids on the table. Lemon tea, my favorite. Shortbread cookies from my childhood, and photos. Old ones. Ones I hadn't seen in a decade. Me and Elise at the lake. A blurry photo from my high school debate finals. The lighting was soft, just flattering enough to feel false. Jonah sat on the arm of the couch, hands folded, lips tight. He looked up, but didn't say a word. Elise wasn't there. Just us, Mom said again, gesturing toward the chair I used to sit in every Christmas morning. We want to make this right. I didn't sit. Dad came in holding a manila envelope, his face unreadable, somewhere between fake concern and something smug. We've been thinking, he said, about how to keep things fair, avoid more misunderstandings. So we had something drawn up. He handed it over like it was a love letter, not a transaction. What is it? I asked, though the pit in my stomach already knew. Just something to formalize expectations, he said smoothly. So no one feels hurt again. I opened it. Thick legal paper. First line, deed transfer agreement, in bold like it was proud of itself. The rest read like a polite con job. Asset clarification. Internal alignment. Shared intent. My chest clenched. I flipped to the bottom. You're asking me to give you my home, I said flat. Mom smiled, hands folded sweetly. It's just paperwork, honey. A formality. That place is way too big for you anyway. You haven't even read it, Dad added. Don't you trust your own family? The room shrank. The air turned thick, like I was breathing through cotton. I closed the folder and placed it carefully next to the untouched tea tray. You staged this like a reconciliation, I said. Calm, firm, the flowers, the snacks, the memories, all of it. Like this was about love. Mom tilted her head, innocent. We are. No, I said. You're inviting me to give away the last piece of me you haven't already tried to take. Dad's mouth twitched like he wanted to argue but couldn't quite lie that cleanly. That's not what this is. I stepped back and looked around. This wasn't peace. It was theater, and I wasn't auditioning anymore. I turned toward the door. I'm not signing anything, I said. Not today, Not ever. This question mark, this is theft, with flowers and tea service. Elise finally spoke, her voice flat. It's just property, Sabrina. I turned toward her. It's not about the property, it's about what you think I'm worth. No one followed. I walked to my car, climbed in, and shut the door before the first tear had the chance to escape. I didn't wipe it. I let it fall, slow and honest, while I pulled up Marlowe's number. He picked up on the second ring. Sabrina, say the word. I didn't hesitate. File everything. The next morning, there was no sunlight warming the sheets, no coffee scent in the air, just silence, dense and deliberate, the kind that doesn't comfort you. It corners you. I made black tea and stared out the kitchen window, letting it steep longer than it should. Outside, the city moved on. The glass fogged up, blurring the skyline like the world was trying to soften the blow. At 9:32 sharp, I parked outside Marlowe's office. Downtown buzzed, but the lobby inside was cold, controlled silence with too clean air. Marlowe greeted me with a nod and a manila folder in hand. I looked over everything last night, he said. It's a mess, he continued, but here's the silver lining. You still legally own the house they're living in. I blinked. Are you certain? He turned to page 2 and tapped my signature. You bought it in 2010, he said. Foreclosure rescue. They never filed a transfer. They've been living there on assumption and audacity. I leaned back, letting the words sink in. I gave them a lifeline, I murmured. They braided it into a noose. Marlowe nodded. No push, no pressure, just the pen. I took it. At home, I didn't feel triumphant, just clear. I wasn't acting out of anger anymore. They'd had enough of my emotions already. This was surgical, quiet, final. Marlowe filed the notice that afternoon. No call, no text, no fair warning, no parking lot showdowns, no group texts full of fake concern, no aunts gasping like a soap opera audience. This wasn't a movie. This was real life, and real life fights with paperwork. 3 days later, the sheriff knocked on their door. I didn't witness it, but Jonah, ever the family documentarian, uploaded grainy security footage to the family group chat, like it was a cry for sympathy. The footage showed my father, bathrobe, half-eaten toast in hand, blinking at the sheriff like he'd just woken in someone else's nightmare. My mother stood behind him, mouth parted mid-sip from one of her prized china mugs. The officer handed over the envelope. We didn't need audio. Their faces told the whole story. Her back straightened like steel. Dad scanned the notice, then flung it against the wall like it was cursed. The video cut just before Mom shouted something at the sheriff. I didn't need to hear it. I'd heard enough. I watched it twice. No reaction. Then I closed the app like I was deleting spam. That night, I sat in silence, chamomile in hand, lights off. My phone lay face down, silent and deserved. No playlists, no shows, just air and quiet. Outside, life went on. Tires hissed across asphalt. A dog barked. Someone played Coltrane 2 blocks over, but inside, time froze, and I let it. I didn't cry. I didn't pace the room or yell into pillows. I just sat, breathing, letting stillness settle like dust. Justice doesn't always mean standing tall over your enemies. Sometimes it's quietly choosing to never stand beside them again. My phone buzzed once. I almost let it go. But then I flipped it over. A message from Elise. They've done worse than you think. Elise's text glowed like a late-night confession, sitting heavy on my screen. I tapped the image. A worn photo album frayed at the edges, page after page. And I wasn't in a single one. No birthdays, no prom, no college graduation, none of those goofy Christmas shots with bad lighting and itchy sweaters. Then came the follow-up. They've been cutting you out for years, not just now, from memory itself. I blinked. Once, twice. Then whispered into the quiet, so I wasn't crazy. That silent confirmation hit harder than the bottle. I hadn't been forgotten. I'd been erased. Cut from the script like I never mattered. I finally typed back. Thank you for proving what I've always known but couldn't name. The next morning, I woke with that strange inner calm, the kind that shows up before the storm hits, but inside you. Delora had posted a video, just a snippet from my wedding speech, the part where my voice cracked. They cut out the warmth, the support, left in the stammer, the silence, framed me as bitter. The caption read, "We gave her love, we didn't expect betrayal." Hashtags spilled beneath it, add me family first. Broken heart. Who even is she? I didn't open the comments. The previews said enough. Ungrateful. We need context. Some kids are just selfish. They weren't just rewriting history. They were scripting a fiction and casting me as the villain. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me more than the betrayal. I opened Dropbox, uploaded it all. Wire transfers, the deed, emails, voicemails. No captions, no hashtags, just truth. I called the folder, "Truth if you care." Then I closed the laptop. Whether it blew up or vanished wasn't the point. The point was, I didn't owe them my silence anymore. I made tea, let the steam warm my face. And for the first time all week, I didn't flinch. That afternoon, I pulled out an old storage bin and found the high school photo album I made myself. Every crooked grin, every awful haircut, proof that I existed. If not to them, then at least to me. In the middle, a sticky note in Dad's messy print. "Kez, knew you had it in you. Proud of you, kid." Dad. I didn't cry, didn't smile, just stared. I whispered to no one, "You loved me once, but that doesn't erase what you became." That night, a text buzzed in, a name I hadn't seen in years. Uncle Marvin. "Saw your file." Finally, someone told the truth. If you need someone to back you up, I'm in. Maybe the glass house didn't fall in one big crash. Maybe it cracked piece by piece, with every person who stopped believing the story and started seeing the truth. The next morning, I drove that old familiar stretch of road in silence. No music, just the soft hum of tires and memory brushing past like wind. I didn't rush. There was nowhere to be late to, no one waiting on the other end. The moving truck sat crooked across the driveway, like it knew the house was no longer welcome to its own past. The realtor waited by the front steps, clipboard in hand, nodding briskly at the workers, hauling out what remained of yesterday. These weren't my parents' things, just discarded echoes, furniture, dishes, a broken lamp, things they didn't love enough to fight for. I stepped out and closed the car door gently. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. The air hung thick, like a house breathing its last in quiet grief. This was once a place of birthday candles, casserole dishes, mismatched mugs, and bad karaoke on holidays. Now, only shadows remained, empty and echoing, bare walls, no photos, not even dust where the picture frames used to hang, just blank space. Sunlight filtered through tired blinds, landing on the floor like it had nowhere else to go. I didn't need a tour. I'd known every squeaky floorboard and chipped tile by heart. The dent on the cabinet Dad promised to fix, the chipped tile from Elise's dropped flat iron. It all lingered, ghosts and wood and grout. And then, on the counter, my name. A letter printed in that same cold office font they use for bills. Not handwritten, not warm. Just my name, like I was being fined for existing. I opened it with a flat palm. It read, "This was never your home anyway." That was it. No apology. Just erasure and ink. I folded the paper slowly, once, then again, slipped it into my coat pocket like trash I didn't want to litter. As I turned, something pulled me back, to the small cabinet under the stairs, barely ever touched. Inside, one old shoebox, dusty, unmarked, like a secret. I brought it to the counter, lifted the lid like I was opening a wound. Inside, a photo. Me, age 8, lopsided pigtails, missing front tooth, clutching a first-place science trophy bigger than me. I was alone in the photo, and I remembered I had been alone that day too. Beneath the photo, one of my folded napkins, the exact one from the wedding dinner, still creased, still crooked. Maybe they kept it by accident, or maybe guilt. Or maybe someone almost threw it away, but couldn't. But it was here, and it was mine. I held the box against my chest, just once, just briefly, then turned back into the world. I handed the realtor the box. "This stays with me," I said. She nodded. No questions. I walked to my car. Never looked back. Not at the porch. Not at the door. Not even at the windows that once held my reflection. That night, at home, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the quiet kitchen with the box beside me. My phone buzzed. A message from Marlo. "Sales final. Funds wired. You're free." I read the words, then read them again. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I didn't know what freedom was supposed to feel like. I looked at the napkin. That little swan, bent but not broken. They gave me everything back by trying to take it all. The morning light came through my window like it hadn't in years, soft, sure, and just for me. Clear, quiet, uncluttered. I placed the folded swan napkin at the center of the table, the same one, rescued from the dark of that cabinet. It felt like a soft whisper from my younger self, proof I had always been here, even when they tried to erase me. A quiet promise honored, not by them, but by me. For the first time, I wasn't holding space for a phone call, an apology, or a scrap of approval. The silence didn't suffocate. It settled over me like a soft blanket, chosen, not forced. Then came the envelope, tucked between bills and catalogs. Thick paper, my name in warm cursive. I knew Thessaly's handwriting before I even opened it. A baby shower invitation, elegant, cream-toned, and scribbled at the bottom, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize how far they went. You deserved better." Thessaly, no excuses, just clarity. Part of me wanted to toss it in the trash. Another part, the part stitched together from scar tissue and self-respect, knew better. So I wrote a donation check to the local women's shelter. On the memo line, "In honor of a real beginning." I didn't attend the shower. Not every cycle needs to end in fire. Sometimes choosing silence is louder than any scream. That evening, I made a simple dinner, pasta with garlic and thyme. 2 plates, not out of habit, but intention. Amina arrived 15 minutes later, a bottle of wine in one hand, a tiny orchid in the other. "This place needs life," she said, setting it by the window, like she belonged here. We ate slowly, like two people who no longer had to prove we were worth anyone's time. My eyes drifted to the napkin swan. Its edges were softer now, not as crisp. But it stood on its own. That was enough. I thought of the girl I used to be, folding napkins like shields, smiling too hard just to be tolerated. And I thought of the woman I had become, not bitter, not broken, whole. "To building our own damn tables," I said, lifting my glass. Amina clinked hers to mine, and never begging for a seat again. That night, I didn't mourn what they lost. I celebrated what I took back. My voice, my presence, my peace. Not just the condo, not just dignity, but a truth no lie could touch. A power quiet and unshakable, and that I realized was worth more than anything they ever withheld. Sometimes, the wounds that shape us don't come from enemies. They come from those who once kissed us goodnight. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about return, about rebuilding from what they tried to break. Have you ever had to walk away from family to save yourself? Tell me below. I read every story. If you believe in quiet power and truth told without apology, hit subscribe. You're not alone here.